Okay, let's move on over here. Try to finish this Malach. We'll start the next one tomorrow. Okay, we're learning about not washing clothing and things like that, the materials on Shabbos. Now, wet laundry, clothing that are wet when Shabbos begins, are muktzah for the entire Shabbos. We learned already, we didn't learn yet, but in the laws of muktzah, things that you're not allowed to move on Shabbos for various reasons, anything was what's muktzah when Shabbos began remains muktzah for the entire Shabbos, even if the reason doesn't apply. So therefore, garments that are wet, okay, that are when Shabbos began, meaning up between Shkia and nightfall, which is called Bein Hashmoshes. The clothing are wet, so they remain muktzah for the entire Shabbos. But if somebody knows that they're for sure going to dry, we started talking this then yesterday at the end, but if you know for sure they're going to dry on Shabbos, for instance, you're going to put it into the dryer before Shabbos, and you know that the clothes will be dry on Shabbos. So then, besides the fact that we're learning about a dryer working on Shabbos, but as far as the clothes are concerned, because they're certain the clothes are going to be dry, then it's not a problem.
Or hanging on the line, knowing that it's going to be dry.
Then you don't know, because it might rain, it might not get, no, but still might not get wet. If it's hanging on the clothesline before Shabbos, and you know for sure it's going to dry, so then also would be the same. But you don't always know on the clothesline. Okay, so to wrap it up, so to speak, if the fabric, you're not allowed to saturate a garment, if you touch it with your hand, it's going to wring it out. The liquid is clear, you're not allowed to. Or if one that wants to wring it out, so then you're not allowed to either. The schita, yeah. Now, not only that, once a garment is saturated with wet, that it's actually wet, you're not allowed to move it until it dries. Because anytime you're going to move it, it's going to squeeze out. So it's not, until the clothing or the material dries, it remains forbidden to once. But Halachos says like this, it's a Mishnah in Shabbos. If two people carry a wet garment, it's allowed.
It is?
But if one person carries a garment, even if it's not so wet, you're not allowed. Because two people will remind each other of it, and they're going to hold it in a way that they're not going to squeeze it out. But one person, it doesn't work like that.
If you put a paper towel on your negel you wash it each time.
Paper towel doesn't matter, because paper towel, number one, there's no din, because you're basically ruining it.
There's no din of schita with paper towel?
There is schita, okay. But how much water are you going to get on it?
You wash when you go from one end to the other. And
it doesn't. It's not enough to be schita. It's going to get damp, yeah, it's going to get, but not enough to actually squeeze it out.
What about chemical?
Like what?
A liquid chemical. It doesn't have water, but it is. Is that also the din of water?
The same thing is cleaning, as far as like dry cleaning.
Yes.
Okay, dry cleaning is still cleaning.
But we are not using water.
It doesn't matter if something is dirty and you go like this, even though it's dry, it's still cleaning. There's two aspects. There's cleaning aspect, and that could be done any way possible. If it's fabric. On your shoes, because it's leather, you're allowed to pour water. You can't rub your shoes clean, but if there's a little dirt on there, you're allowed to pour a little bit of water because it doesn't absorb, and then because it's not cleaning, again, it's not absorbed in the leather, but to rub it, that you're not allowed to. But any cleaning method whatsoever, liquid is worse because you might come to squeeze it too. So then you're doing actually two melachas. If somebody has a wet garment and they squeeze it out, they're actually desecrating two melachas in Shabbos. One is cleaning, because when you wring it out, the dirt comes out. And secondly, the melacha of squeezing. You're not allowed to squeeze liquid out of something that was absorbed in it on Shabbos. And therefore, for instance, let's say somebody has a sponge. See, this is a sponge, yeah? A sponge is material. We're not talking about a nylon sponge, those plastic sponges. A regular sponge that you squeeze, and somebody has it in the sink. and then somebody pours water on it, right? You turn on the faucet and water pours onto the sponge. That's cleaning on Shabbos. You're cleaning a material just by pouring water on it. Besides the fact that you're not allowed to use a sponge on Shabbos because it's going to squeeze the liquid. When you wash something with a sponge, you're squeezing water out of the sponge. Unless if it's like a nylon sponge that are not very tightly close together, then it's like here, which is rabbinically forbidden. But you have these nylon sponges that are, spread apart, the nylon things. So those you're allowed to use on Shabbos. And therefore you can wash them. They're not absorbed. There's not a problem with them.
I'm not doing anything. I'm just opening the water. The sponge is in the corner of the sink.
But it's there. I'm going to paraphrase your question. I'm not doing it. I'm just turning on a light. The light goes on. I mean, what's that have to do with?
My intention is not to do the water.
It doesn't matter what your intention. It's for sure happening. You don't want to clean the sponge. I understand. But the bottom line is, it's for sure going to happen.
You can't do anything to the sink then, right?
Well, you can take out the sponge carefully.
I thought the sponge is automatically.
No, if it's not sopping wet, or even if you just take the part of it and you pick it up. What drips out on its own is not your doing.
Whatever you're gonna grab, a sponge.
Yeah, but you mamish take a corner. That's even by a garment. You could take a little corner of it, and because that corner is minimal. When it's all together, it has much more liquid. That little corner is not gonna do anything.
Like for example, we have filters in houses, or filters in Frida filters.
No.
I mean, the water is going in and it's separating because there's a filter in there. It's going to happen inevitably.
You're asking why isn't the melacha better?
Yes.
It's very simple. Because the din is something which is drinkable as is. And you're just doing it to make it more pure, there's no din of schita. There's no din of beiter. Beiter is when you're selecting bad from good. But if the water, you could drink the water without the filter.
Yes.
Right? All you're doing is make it purer.
Yes.
So then there's no din of beiter. I'll tell you where you have a problem. We mentioned this in the past. There was a time, I don't know what they're still doing in New York. New York has its own religion. There's no COVID in New York. They have their own criteria, yeah. So there was a time in New York, there was bugs in the water. And therefore, the Rabbanim in New York, most of them, came out, you're not allowed to drink the water without a filter. Even during the week. Because there's bugs in the water. Okay, so therefore the pasuk, you're not allowed to drink the water unless you have a filter, because then it holds back the bugs. According to that, you cannot use those filters on Shabbos, because you can't drink the water, and now you're making it drinkable. So that's better. So I don't know what they did on Shabbos.
You're taking good from bad, though. You're choosing good.
No, you're holding. Anytime you strain, straining is forbidden because you're separating the good from the bad, and you're taking away the what? Okay, I'm saying you could do that, but I'm saying just to use this. Now, it wouldn't be a problem to wash your hands with that water, because you can wash your hands with the bugs in the water.
What's wrong with the bugs, Rabbi?
There's a lot of protein. They're good.
No, because according to the Rambam, unless it's a male and female.
The bugs, most of them are male and female.
How about Pesach? Can you drink the water on Pesach?
Why can't you drink the water?
Because there are bugs. There might be bugs in there.
What's the Pesach? Bugs are not chometzdik.
So maybe there's chametz in the water too.
Let me ask you, chazer is chometzdik?
Of course not.
Is there any difference between eating chazer on Pesach or year round? Is there any difference?
There's no difference.
Okay, because chazer is not chometz.
If you can eat chazer, may as well run from the lips.
Yes, v'shtmakev in the lippen.
Yeah.
But no, so then it's a problem of beiter. If you can't drink the water, and then, but like this, anything that you're able to drink. Now, we learned already the din about hanging up clothing in a place where you normally hang up clothing because it looks like you washed them on Shabbos. So many poskim hold things that are normally dry cleaned, like suits, pants, whatever, that are normally, you don't wash them in a machine. you normally dry clean. So then when they're hung up, people are not going to think you washed them because those things are not washed.
So why are you hanging it up?
And that's the reason why you're not allowed to hang out clothing on Shabbos is because people might think that you washed them, but clothes that are not washed, like what's we call dry cleaning stuff, so then you can hang them up regular because we're not afraid people are going to say you washed them on Shabbos because you didn't.
Why are you hanging them?
They got wet in the rainstorm.
I think we had a dream that if there are shirts in a dresser, this color, you, on Shabbos you cannot go and
You have to take out which one you want.
Why is that connected
before
to the
Shabbos.
No.
You can take out what you want.
What you want, you're allowed to separate good from bad.
But why is that not part?
But you can't do that Friday night for Shabbos morning.
Right.
Let's say there's somebody sleeping in the kid's room, and the kid has a bunch of dresses, and the mother wants to sleep in Shabbos morning. So Friday night she wants to get the kids after eating. She wants to go to the closet and take out the kids' dresses for the next day. So that you're not allowed to do, because even take good from bad must be done right before you're using it. So Shabbos morning you can take out the dress that you want. But there's also a difference though. If there's things, you can move it, you can push things away, that's not better.
You could move it.
You can move it because then you're like, it's like peeling I'll give you an example, it's late because I have to go. But Californians don't know what this is. There's something called winter coats. Okay. Now, when people go winter time to Shalom Zachar, they come to the house, right? So there's a bed where everybody dumps the coat on. So there's 50 coats on a bed. Now you want to leave. And you happen to come earlier. So your coat's somewhere at the bottom. Now how are you supposed to get that coat? Okay, it's not for now.